The banking system in the United States overall is insolvent because the amount of losses that they're going to accumulate are bigger than the capital that the banks have. So even if the government is putting capital in the banks, that's not sufficient. Banks have to use this capital for the future losses. So we'll have to put maybe another $1 trillion of capital of government money before banks feel safe to lend again. But that means effectively to nationalize a good chunk of the US financial system. Of course, you want banks and the financial system to be in the private hands, but when you have a systemic banking crisis, for example, like the one in Sweden, sometimes the solution is that on a temporary basis, the government takes over the banking institution, cleans them up, and then 2-3 years later, it sells them back to the private sector. Now, there is always a risk that if you nationalize, you can always keep it under government control, but given the severity of this financial crisis, we cannot avoid a significant amount of government intervention and even takeover of some financial institution. At this point, I fear is not ideal, but is unavoidable. There are different models of resolving banking problems. One of it might be from a bank, take away the good assets and the bad assets and separate them, and then put new capital, government or private, in the good bank. That means that then the current shareholder of the banks get completely wiped out because they're associated with the bad assets. So that separation is one model of resolving a financial crisis. It works. There is too much optimism right now that all this easing of monetary and fiscal policy is going to get us out of this US and global recession by the second half of this year. I'm much more pessimistic. I believe that there is going to be a global recession for all of 2009, and even the growth recovery in 2010-11 is going to be weak, because I think that you cannot just throw money and spend money on a problem. These problems of fixing the financial system, fixing the debt problem take years. And when there is a banking crisis, the credit crunch and contraction usually lasts 3-4 years. So I think that the markets are expecting an easy solution or an easy fix. These things take time. Even if you have the best team, the best policies, it's going to take years until we fix this problem. First of all, you have to separate between the banks that are illiquid and don't have enough capital, but they're solvent if you put liquidity and capital, and those that are so rotten, they should shut them down. If you keep alive the kind of insolvent bank, they're not going to be able to do and function and lend again. So that separation of good and bad, closing down the bad ones, trying to save the other ones is important. And then to save the good ones, you have to do a lot of hard work on that one as well. Bank by bank, you have to figure out how to restructure their debts, how much liquidity, how much capital, until they are in a position to lend again. That's why all these things take time. In the US, you have about 8,500 banks. A fraction of them are in big trouble. It takes time to resolve this problem. You cannot just throw money. You have to really go bank by bank and resolve their problems. There are many ways in which, if the government becomes a shareholder, should control what banks do. For example, these outrageous compensations that bankers and traders receive should be limited. There should be better risk management. If some of the activity of these banks are shady and lead to tax avoidance or other things, those things should be controlled. If the taxpayers' money is at stake, we should take the opportunity to fix the financial system and avoid some of these kind of scams and frauds as well. In many of these banking crises, it's absolutely the case that in the good times, they privatize the gains and the profits, and when they do mistakes, because the financial system is important, we'll have to be bailed out, and we are socializing the losses. That's why I think there is now a backlash. Many people are angry. They're saying, why are we saving the banks and so on? I think that the fair thing to do is make sure that then those who made mistakes, the manager, the CEOs, to be kicked out without big severance pays, to have the shareholders to be diluted or wiped out altogether, and create for the future a system where all these implicit and explicit guarantees of governments in the financial system don't lead again to this gambling. The financial market should not be a casino, should be a place where there is proper allocation of savings to investment. And for the last few years, the financial market in the US became almost like a gambling casino, and that's not fair, that's not appropriate. This year, unfortunately, I see a very severe not just US, but global recession. It's for the first time in decades, US, Europe, Japan, other advanced economy, emerging markets are all contracting, and the rate is becoming actually very, very dangerous. The financial crisis now is spread globally to Europe, to Japan, to emerging markets. This is a very, very dangerous situation. We have not had such a severe financial and economic crisis probably since the Great Depression. I'm hopeful that if the right policies are undertaken by each country in some coordination, maybe by 2010 there will be some growth recovery. It's not going to be great. Even 2010 is going to be maybe below potential growth, but at least return to growth. And we need to do a lot to fix the system, and this is the most big challenge that the global economy has faced in decades. Money to me means relatively nothing. I think that what leads to success of economic system is investing in skills, in human capital, in good investments, in creating knowledge and other things that build institution and society. Money should be what is the grease that provides then the tools to do the right things. So money cannot be a goal by itself, has been a tool to achieve a better society. Unfortunately, in Wall Street and in the financial system, greed, arrogance led to money becoming the goal rather than a tool for something else. We have to rebalance the balance between the real economy and money and the financial system. The financial system should be supportive of the real economy, because if the financial system runs amok and becomes crazy, then the collateral damage of a financial crisis for the real economy is severe. So we have to think about the role of money and finance in a productive way.